Good afternoon. This is Herb Keener with Keys to Living. Today we're going to just talk about who we are. You know, we need to determine who we are before we try to move in a position we know nothing about. I'd like for you, those of you that need this help, those of you that don't, be blessed and just live that life as God had brought forward to you. If you know who you are, you know where you're going, and you know what you're doing, and you're happy with all that, I don't have anything for you other than just be blessed, you know. But I know as I work through, after even being a Christian, before was hard enough, but afterwards it was pretty hard. But there's a time you need to stop. Don't think about anything. Don't do anything. Just sit down, stand up, walk around, whatever you got to do. But take a time to just stop and let it be just you. Not concerned about the children, not concerned about the family, not concerned about anything. You need to stop and you need to determine who you are. Because if we keep going and we keep piling things on top of us, not only do we forget who we are, we don't even know who we are. So there needs to be a time we stop and we look at ourselves and we begin to say, am I okay? Am I happy about where I'm at? Am I happy with what I'm doing? And see, if the answer to that is no, then you really need to stop and take a look, determine who you are right now. If you're satisfied with who you are, great. But your past defines who you are today. What you do today defines who you will be tomorrow. Life should not be miserable. That is one thing you need to get in your mind. Things don't have to be miserable. I don't care what financial situation you're in. I don't care what family situation you're in. You can take care of these things. You just got to do what you can do and then stand and say, Lord, I've done all I can do and I want to be a good person. Now, if you don't want to be a good person, you don't have to deal with anything. Just be who you are. But if you know who you are isn't who you want to be, don't waste any time. I'm 81. Come on, guys. You out there 40 and 50 and even 60, you need to determine who you are. Man, don't waste that time. Don't wait till you're 81 to figure out, whoa, wait a minute, I've been doing things wrong. My attitude's been terrible and all that thing. So don't wait that long. I'm telling you that it needs, in order for your life to be happy, in order for your life to be in control. It doesn't mean that things are not going to happen to you or not bad things or anything else. That doesn't mean all that's going to stop just because you determine who you are. Matter of fact, it'll get a little tougher, but your life will be a little better and probably a whole lot better. If you determine that who you've been for these past few years is not who you really want to be, then you need to take a look at the attitude you're using. Someone's always there to deceive you to believe the only way is their way. And if you're not doing it their way, then you can't be good. You can't be up on top. And more than likely, they're after something besides just you being good. They're after something you own. Are they jealous of your calmness or your peace? Because, see, that's what life is really all about. Because I'm sure if you talk to anybody that's getting ready to pass from here to the other side, they're not going to tell you about their desire to have a limousine or their desire to have a big new car. They're not going to tell you about the things of this world that they're wanting. They're going to talk to you about love, peace. They're going to tell you how miserable they was and without knowing that they needed to be in another position. We begin to struggle sometimes with problems that really aren't problems. They're just situations that are not good and need to be dealt with and put away so that peace and love can take its place. And don't think for a minute that if you're miserable, you're fooling everybody around you, because you're not, and you won't be able to. Misery is from the dark side of this life. All you have to do is walk up, change lanes, get into the light of this world. Get into where, wow, who loves me? Who do I love? Who's concerned about me? Who am I concerned about? See, if we're chasing something that's not realistic in our life, or something that God doesn't want in your life, you're going to be most miserable. And you're going to go from one situation to the next. I know people that go from drama to drama to drama. And then I know some snobs. I'm telling you what's the truth. Don't be one of them. They act like they like you to your face, and then they do things that definitely will give you the clear signal that all they're doing is putting up with you. They don't care about you. They don't care what's going on. If you don't dress right, if you don't talk right, if you don't do things right, you need to observe what's going on in your life. Now, every time that sun comes up, you have an opportunity to turn yourself around and start being the person that you would like to be. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not where I want to be in life. I'll tell you that for sure. But I'm okay, because I'm fine where I'm at and what I'm doing. But I'm waiting and hoping to overcome the things in my life that I have put in there that become a stigma to me. Now, attitude is a work in progress for me, and I'm sure it's for a lot of people. Sometimes we think bad thoughts and things begin to happen, and we got 10 fingers and we're pointing at 10 different people. Why you're that way? You got to stop that, because there's only one that has a problem, and that's you. When I finally realized that these other people that I'm trying to blame for the misery in my life, they were the reason. They were not the cause. The cause is within us. We can either be a loving, kinding person, or we can be judgmental and argumentative and into ourselves. I'm going to tell you, if you stop being that inside to yourself and start sharing your love and sharing your life, things will change. Be aware of what comes out of your mouth. Be aware of how people perceive you. And be sure those that you love you. Because it's better to be without that person than a one-sided love. Now, you know what one-sided love does, and one-sided work is it just you're there until you're no longer needed. Then if you invest all your time and all your efforts and all your finances and everything into a person, and then you no longer have all these things to invest in them, and they leave, where does that leave you? That leaves you with investing all your time, money, and efforts into somebody that didn't even care, and you didn't take enough time to take a look and see. You have to begin to know who you are in reality, not just assumptions, not just because you think you're good. You need to know that you are. You need to know that your heart's in the right place. You need to know that peace, you can get peace by just going to that person that you love and embracing them and caring for them. Then if you have to chase somebody down to tell them your problems, you better cut them out of your life, because pretty soon you're not going to be able to chase them and they're going to be gone. And you've invested all that time, again, into something that has no benefit whatsoever. And the only benefit we're normally looking for is just a response of love and caring, just compassion. You know, it's such a blessing to be allowed to live 81 years and be as healthy as I am. So I guarantee you, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying I am blessed to be in that position. Because sooner or later, even if they have to wait till I'm 100, somebody's going to listen to what I say, and they're going to start looking for life about love and compassion and caring, and find out that there's a side that can be blessed and enjoyed, and you can get up in the morning looking forward to the day instead of saying, oh my goodness, I got to go to work to this place I hate, I got to do this. And see, when comes time to pass on to the other side, you can't change that. The only time you can change that is right now. You've got to stop. Who am I? What am I doing? Who am I doing it with? Am I happy with what I'm doing? And if you question yourself and you get the right answers, you'll know whether you're in the right position or you need to be looking for another place to be. And not in position. And you know what? Geographics is not going to help. You can leave one state and go to another, but if you haven't changed within you, pretty soon it'll all be the same. You'll be miserable again. You can't look for happiness in geographical areas. It has to be in your heart. And no matter where you live, no matter what you do, if you're showing love and you're accepting your peace that you know you can get, you don't need to chase after it. It'll find you. And God will send the right person in your life. Don't think for a minute you can go out and find them. And naturally, we normally all look in the wrong places. I was blessed that Lord just sent me my wife, and I didn't have to go look for anything. But what I'm telling you is that also can happen to anybody. I don't have a lock on that. I am just blessed, but I'm no more blessed than you can be. Just by doing what you're doing every day, changing the ugly habits, turning them into good habits, and understanding what other people feel. Know who you love, know why you love them, and know that they love you back. And if you don't, see, another 10 years from now, another 5 years, another year, you'll be crying about how miserable you are. That's because you didn't pay attention to who you really are. And are you somebody that you would love to see come? Are you somebody that people tell you to your face they love you, but by their actions they show they don't even care? So in the second segment, we're going to talk about a subject that'll take off. God bless.
JKH Career Coaching and Consulting, creating solutions in career planning, development, training, and placement. Contact Jackie Kennedy Harris at JKH Career Coaching and Consulting at jkhccc.com or call 559-307-7712. Introducing Psychology for Today with host Alan Hedberg, PhD, clinical psychologist. Watch it on CentralValleyTalk.com the first Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also, connect with the program on YouTube, Psychology for Today. Dr. Hedberg is also on YouTube under Dr. Teach Me to Parent and Boys to Men.
I'm back. You know, I want to talk to you about how you determine all these things. Where do you get your guidelines from? Well, for me, you get them from the Bible. And as long as you are honest with yourself and you really care to do well, I mean, I've got some relatives that just think the sun sits on their day every day. They're just special, blessed, and whatever, and they're the crotchetiest old people I ever seen in my life. They talk garbage, they do all that, and they think, man, they're financially well off, and boy, I'm telling you, finances is one thing. Being a good person is another. And the finances stays here when you go. When you love someone and someone loves you, it goes with you. But these are the type of people that need, and they will know. I mean, they will know. I guarantee you that when it comes time for them to meet the Maker, it doesn't mean they're going to hell or anything. It just means that they're going to be accountable for the words that come out of their mouth. And that's a little scary for me because in the Word it says every word we're going to be accountable for come out of our mouth. Well, I've had a lot of words come out of my mouth. I just soon not remember. But I'm telling you this for sure. These people are making other people miserable. They're probably so miserable they can't stand themselves so that they have to make other people miserable. So this is what I'm trying to reach out and let you know is if your children aren't coming around and aren't seeking you out and just seeing you on holidays, there's something wrong. Now, it's either you or them. And if you look in and see that you're doing what you need to do, you're loving them as much as you can, not only by word, but by your actions, then, you can determine, well, and you can only do so much. You can't force people to love you. That's to start with. You give me $1 million, I'll love you till it's gone. But then after that, I'd have to be honest with you and tell you I didn't love you anymore because you didn't have no money. But what I'm saying is you need to determine in your heart who you are. Are you doing the right thing? And whatever you did wrong and is seek forgiveness. And then once you get to forgiveness, then it's entirely up to them. So you may have to look in another area for new friends. Don't die alone. Let me tell you, there's people out there that would love to have good people in their life. They probably had miserable people in their life all the time. These people that go sit their parents in a home and just never come and see them ever again. Now, there's something wrong with that. And more than likely, they gave them too much when they were out there raising them up. They probably gave them everything they didn't have to work for, so now they don't even have to be accountable for that. So what I'm telling you is don't be one of those, either side. But what I'm telling you is what is important in your life. Now, the good way to find that out, what was the most important thing to Jesus? What did he say the most important thing was? Well, if you get into Matthew 22 and 36, it says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, for those of you that have bad neighbors and having problems with it all the time, I got news for you. That's the neighbors he was talking about. You got to love them no matter. You don't have to like their sin. You don't have to like their ignorance that they do, but you need to love them. Love them into submission, or at least not hold. Because, see, number one, if you hold a grudge against them because they're stupid or because they're ignorant or because they're rowdy or because they're cursing or whatever, see, you're going to be the one that's miserable. And they'll be laughing and going on. They don't know any difference. But if you love them doing all this ugliness that they do, you're gonna please God. It doesn't matter what the man thinks, but you're going to please God. And when you please God, he'll bring all things to you. He'll move them neighbors out. But as long as you hate them, as long as you curse them, as long as you battle them, you're going to be living with it. But the minute you decide, I'm going to love them no matter what they do, and I mean, I know there comes a time if they pull a gun and start shooting at you, it's time to call a cop. But what I'm saying is just the regular, ignorant, overbearing, self-absorbed people that think they're the only ones on the block, you just love them and let them be ignorant. But then God will either move them out or move you out. Many times I've talked to pastors across the country, and you hear stories of these neighbors, and some of them submitting, saying, oh, my goodness, they ended up apologizing and asked for forgiveness. But then they also have stories about being, getting moved out to a better situation. Now, my wife and I, we have the two best neighbors in this country. We live in Tulare. God set us right in between two people. I mean, they are like family. We've been there 3 years, but the first month I was there, they treated us just like they treat us now. Nothing's changed. We were blessed for their neighbors. We weren't used to having neighbors. We had a pretty large area down in Stockton. We didn't have to deal with neighbors. And I didn't even give that a thought when we bought this home. But we ended up with two of the best neighbors there are. And I tell you what, I tell them every day, every time I see them, how blessed we are that they are our neighbors. But Jesus talked about, he said, the second thing is love the neighbor like you love yourself. Now, if you don't love yourself, you can't love your neighbor. You can't love anybody. It says all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. See, you talk about laws and prophets. Well, that's another thing. The prophets, all this hangs on these two commandments. Yesterday, I had a man call me and tell me the Lord told him that I was going to live to be over 100. I said, oh my goodness, I did not like that. But he said he felt it in his heart that the Lord, and as I'm talking to him, he told me he felt very adamant about it. I said, oh my God, I was afraid of something like that. But there's some reason why God is letting me be healthy at 81. Now, there's one thing that'll make that come true, and there's one thing that will make it not true. Number one, I'll live to be over 100 or I'll die. And if I die before 100, then that means the prophecy wasn't true, and maybe the guy just thought I needed to live that long. But either way, I want God's will in my life. And the only way I'm going to do that is I have to take his way and make it my way. I know how to screw things up. I mean, I'm an expert at that. I've been doing that forever. I got saved at 44 years old, and I'm 81 now. I didn't stop screwing up just because I become a Christian. I just started becoming more aware of it and trying to adjust who I am. You don't change overnight. Because, see, the first time you make a change, you stop yourself on that day and you make a change. That's just one change in one day. You got to do hundreds of days. Hundreds of days. You've got to get in there and you've got to say, this is bad in my life. I can't do it. I've done that a bunch of times. And next thing you know, I'd be right back doing it. And you basically don't have to start over every time, but it sure sets you back. Because, man, you think, well, I've got it made now and everything's good. I've been really dealing good with them and things are great in my life. The next thing you know, something stupid comes out of my mouth, or I argue about something, or I get angry. Anger, that's a bad situation. And I've had anger most of my life. When I got mad, I got mad. I remember when I was 17 in my first car, I got mad at my first wife. I went out and broke all the windows out of my car. Now I want to tell you, you talk about ignorance at the highest level. Because then I had to struggle for a week and a half to replace all those windows. Well, needless to say, that was a lesson I never done again, not ever. If I'm going to beat something up, it's going to be somebody else's, not mine. But that's what I'm talking about. Anger will take you there. Stupidity will take you there. What we need to know is we're not stupid. We're not ignorant. We're not an angry person. We've got to know that. That's why I say you got to stop and back up and say, look, who am I? Take these things to heart and don't be one of them dummies that people love to go home and talk about. Let them, if they go home and talk about you, let it be a lie. Don't let it be true. You know, I know some know-it-all folks, man. I'm going to tell you, you mention dirt and they'll tell you when it was made, manufactured, and what everybody does with it. And it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. But they've got an opinion on everything. And you know about opinions. They're like armpits. They stink. So the key thing is not getting caught up in what other people think. Know who you are. Know why you want peace. Look at that child in your life. Look at your wife, your husband. What are you there? You there to argue with them every day, or are you there to love them every day? You see, you got to really know who you are, because if you don't, your life most miserable. And I just love those people that just say, "Oh man, I got the greatest marriage there is, and I got the good job," and then they get drunk. Oh man, the truth comes out from all corners. That, and that's another thing. I hung around at the bar so long, I know about them things. I mean, you talk about Heckle and Jekyll. Man, nice, easy-going guy, all of a sudden got drunk, and now he wants to fight everybody in the bar, and he wants to pick up the biggest guy in the whole joint. So sometimes we live a facade, but when it's broke down, we realize how miserable it is, so we get angry at the world. We probably get angry at God. And the next thing you know, you're telling your mate you hate them, or you're telling your kids they're worthless. And I mean, I have seen people absolutely belittle their kids. And if anybody had any right not coming back to see them, they would. But see, don't be one of them. This life is only one time. It's a one-time run. You don't get 3 or 4 shots at it. I wish I had a second chance to show my children how much I loved them and cared for them. But when you're hanging out at the bars and not paying any attention to what they're doing or knowing anything about them, that's not, you might tell them you love them, but that doesn't show you love them. So the key thing there is to be aware that the words coming out of your mouth isn't falling short because of your actions. So you need to know who you are. You need to know if you're a jerk and you want to be one, be one. If you're not, change. Next segment, we're going to talk about that. God bless.
Introducing Psychology for Today with host Alan Hedberg, PhD, clinical psychologist. Watch it on CentralValleyTalk.com the first Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also connect with the program on YouTube, Psychology for Today. Dr. Hedberg is also on YouTube under Dr. Teach Me to Parent and Boys to Men.
I'm back. Well, we were talking about what was important to Jesus should be important to us. We talked about the commandments and the law, but the main thing is these things need to be in your heart, not just your mind. And you can't, if you're struggling not to do something so that you'll be a good person, that's not the answer. You can't struggle because pretty soon you're going to lose that struggle. You can't want to do something really bad and not do it because it's the wrong thing to do, because pretty soon somebody's going to make you angry enough, somebody's going to turn you around, and you are going to do that thing that you didn't want to do. That's when you hear about people 10, 15 years sober all of a sudden go out on a drunk. That's because something within them got disrupted, and their life that they were struggling to stay on top of fell apart. Somebody messed with them. Usually it's a love action. Somebody leaves somebody that they really love, and it's just heartbreaking, and they do something to counteract it. They go back to their old ways. That any time that you are struggling to do something, you need to start working on getting the desire out of your heart, not to struggle to not do it so you would be a good person, but have it out of your heart where you don't, it's not even a consideration. It's not part of your makeup. It's not who you are. And no matter what comes your way, you deal with it in a godly manner, and it's fine. I don't care how bad it is. People are going to die that we love. That's just how it is. And there's people going to get sick that we care so much about. And there all these things are going to happen. There's car accidents. There's house fires. There's all these things that can really take you down. But see, and if you have something you're struggling with and you're just barely hanging on, the first time something happens, you do a fender bender or you lose sight of what you're doing, then you're right back into the old way, and then you have to start all over again. You know, many times, I've seen the 10, 12-year alcoholic that had been clean all that time have a devastating thing happen to them. So they went right back to what destroyed him the first time. That's not the answer. The answer is to get it out now. Don't fight that struggle. Don't have it as a struggle to take a hold of. Because if it's a desire, pray it out. If you're not a Christian, walk it out. Start walking it out. Find out. You might want to look in the direction that where the peace is at is find out why it's such a desire for you to have to do that. Why is it such a thing that you have to struggle with? That desire is built into you, and you have lodged it way down in there and said, I'm not doing that again ever. But you didn't deal with the issue. You just buried it under a program, 12-step program or AA or NA or whatever. Don't bury it with a program. Pull it out here. Deal with it and say, the reason I don't drink anymore is because I care who I am, not who people think I am. I want it to be true when people look at me and say, well, man, there's a good person. There's a person that doesn't have that issue. And man, I got a lot of issues. There's enough issues out there for everybody. I want you to know that, because it can be people, it can be things, it can be finances, it can be buildings, it can be relationships of any kind. So you don't just sit there and battle it every day, because I know my son died in 1996. And I want to tell you now, and it was November 1996. Now, there isn't a day go by that I don't think about him. Not a day. But it's not a hurtful thought. It's thinking of he's okay now. Not that cliche, oh, he's in a better place. Well, that's a fact, because I believe that and I know that in my heart. So I've settled that. Me and God has settled that. My son died for a reason. Now, I don't know what that reason is, but I guarantee you God does. And I know in my heart that it's okay. But I missed him. I miss him today. I wondered how he would ever be. He would be in his 50s now. But see, don't let something like that, because death is an inevitable thing to everybody. Now, some of our loved ones are going on. There's all my friends, the younger people, they're in their 70s and 60s even. I've done funerals for. I've done many funerals. And all my friends, not all my friends, but a lot of my friends have passed away, the ones I had in the world, and my Christian brothers. My very best people died that I loved so much and admired and lifted up. I've had two great people die out of my life that they would not be as old as I am right now. Now that breaks your heart, and it makes you understand something. Life goes on. I love something that the lady in Tulare said that had her siblings. There was 10 of them when this guy, Karen. I don't want to get that name wrong. But she said the party goes on with or without you. And she said she didn't want that party to go on without her. So she rehabilitated herself. She got into things and she dealt with things. She walked through it. She got it. She knew that all the travesties in her life didn't take her down. It made her stronger. I mean, it was miserable, but she done what it took to become the person she is now. So what I'm telling you is, don't just keep putting off figuring out who you are, because who you are determines on what you do. If you're miserable and then you're just struggling day to day, what do you have to look forward to? When you get up in the morning, what are you're mad because the sunshine, or are you upset because somebody didn't do what you thought they ought to do? Are you just blessed because it's another day that gives you an opportunity to be that person that God allowed you to be born to be? And who do you think you are if you think for a minute that you wasn't calculated by God to be born for a purpose? You have a purpose. You may never use it. You may never accomplish it. You may not even ever find out what it is. But you can. But it's a struggle sometimes. But it's not a bad struggle. If you begin to know who you are, that's the start of a new journey. And I don't care how old you are. Don't talk to me about being old, because I'm going to counteract you. I'm telling you, I've restarted more times than there is chalk to draw the line. But if you never restart, when you know you're in a position that's bad, if you never restart, you remain in that body, you waste the breath that God gave you, and you need to rise up and you need to love that person that's inside you. Your heart needs to be full of joy. You need to be glad you're alive, because number one, if you're breathing, and I don't care if you're handicapped, I don't care if you, whatever it is, if you're in a wheelchair, or if you have to need help to get around, so what? You're alive. Your words can mean something to people. Your actions can mean something to your family. Now, I tell you that it was hard for me to look inside of who I was, because every day a flashback comes back about the dumb things I've done and the things and the opportunities I missed. I mean, they bombard me daily. But see, if you don't allow them to stay within your heart, they're not going to bother you. You just pass it on, rebuke it in the name of Jesus, and go on. If I started worrying about everybody I'd done wrong, I'd spend my day writing lists of people's names and things and what I did. I'd spend my life being miserable over the stupid things I'd done. That was yesterday. This is today. I love who I am. I love what I'm doing. And I care for people. You know, sometimes I just soon be by myself. A lot of times. But that's the time I begin to learn. That's the time that I am able to draw into me the power that's in me. See, you have power in you. If you never unleash it, you'll never know it. If you unleash it and it don't work, so at least you unleash it and try it. If you never unleash it, you'll never know. You know, I pastored for 5.5 years. And I'm going to use the last segment to kind of talk about that. I was thrown into a position that I knew nothing about, had no idea what was going on. It had only been 5 or 6 years from the drug runner to a Christian. And it had only been a while. And I had no idea what a pastor did. I had no idea what pastors do. But I, for 5.5 years, pastored a church with rebellious leadership. I'm going to tell you, I look back on that and seen that they missed out. Because if they would have joined with me, we would have made history. If they, instead of fighting me and battling me, I think most of them were offended because of my past and how dare me pastor their church. So those things it's just good that God blinded me from all that. We'll see you in just a few minutes. God bless.
JKH Career Coaching and Consulting, creating solutions in career planning, development, training, and placement. Contact Jackie Kennedy Harris at JKH Career Coaching and Consulting at jkhccc.com or call 559-307-7712. Introducing Psychology for Today with host Alan Hedberg, PhD, clinical psychologist. Watch it on CentralValleyTalk.com the first Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also connect with the program on YouTube, Psychology for Today. Dr. Hedberg is also on YouTube under Dr. Teach Me to Parent and Boys to Men. Introducing
I'm back. I'm going to finish a couple of points, and then I'm going to tell you about the experiences I did as a pastor, and it definitely was God made, because there's no way I could have survived a year, much less 5.5 years. But, as we were talking about what's important to Jesus, and the point 2 is, after we learn comes instructions. After we learn what the most important thing is about Jesus, what do we do with it? And so we're looking at Luke 6:27 and 28. But I tell you who hear me, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. Boy, I could put names on all them. But the case thing is, now that's hard to do. Matter of fact, I don't think we can do it on our own. There's no way I could physically do this. Only God would have to give me the strength and the power. Excuse me. So it said, bless those who curse you. Can you imagine, in a physical mind, in the flesh, somebody's cussing you out, and you're there trying to give them a blessing? You're saying, oh, God bless you, brother. Just keep on laying it on me. But see, in reality, it's not our strength that can do that. We don't have to respond. We don't have to deal with it. Once it's over, I got to tell you about this one time in my life. I just got saved, and I'm going to a GED test so that I will be eligible to have a pastor's license. And I was probably 45, less than a year after I got saved. So I'm going. And I'm going to this college that is that issues the GED. Well, I'm going around looking at places that trying to park, because I was about half late for my class, and I go and I park in this one place. I have a young man come out, start hollering at me, telling me what an idiot I am for parking in that place, and I told him what an idiot he was for out here yakking at me like this. And normally what I would have done in the world was just punched his lights out, or as much as I could have. So I'm arguing with this guy like crazy, and we're nose to nose, and I kind of feel it's going to end up physical. All of a sudden, in the back of my mind, these words come to me. It said, would you want him to know that you're a Christian? Wow. I mean, the guy seen the expression on my face change. Naturally, the answer to that was, no, I don't want him to know I'm a Christian. I melted, and I told him, you know what, I'm sorry. And I began to, sorry. Well, generally when you do a worldly person that way, they take kindness for weakness. So I got ready, and sure enough, he chewed me up one side and down the other, but I stood there and I took it. And then I just told him how sorry I was. I got into my vehicle, I backed it up, went around to the back and pulled in this driveway. And I sat there for a moment and I said, Lord, this is you. And I bawled like a baby. I mean, I cried till my whole insides was dry. I mean, it was a spiritual moment that I will never, ever forget. Because without that word in the back of my head, we would have ended up in a physical altercation. That was the first time that I listened to something and responded to it. In the world, we'd have just been flogging each other like crazy. But that's what God will do for you if you allow him. Now, I haven't always allowed God to temper the situation. I've got out there where I didn't peel back. I've never had to, since I've been a Christian, I have been in no physical context whatsoever. And I'm blessed because of that. Because God isn't about battling physically. It's about battling spiritually. You need to learn how to use your spiritual. The things in your life that you now used to do are spiritual. They're no longer physical. And that was hard for me because I have had some altercations in a lot of places, a lot of stitches due to the fact of having altercations. But as I learned from that, I said, oh my goodness, all I had to do to put impression on that young man was the minute he come out and said he didn't want me parking there, is just to say, well, I'm sorry, I did not know that, and back out and go. That all can be saved. But see, hard-headed measure for hard-headed people. And I know God's worked overtime on me because he's used a lot of things to make me see what the reality of him is. Until we know the reality of God, we're not going to be able to walk in the reality. And that was a beginning of learning. But see, now, it says after learning comes instruction, but then it's not only that, after instruction comes works. In other words, after you get these instructions, after you get these, you got to do something about it. In Luke 6:36 to 38 says, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. You see, it's totally opposite about the world. Now, it's so it's a hard thing to do in the flesh, but it's an easy thing to do in the spirit. If you are spiritually minded and God is in your heart, these things are no issue. And as I was telling you, the pastoring that church, it was an old-time church, been around for 60 years, and here this young newly drug runner is up for election. I don't even know how I got there, except for the fact that we had a pastor come, and he was not a good pastor. I mean, he was a good speaker, and he can make you feel great and just instill it in you. But it turned out that he had an issue with his life for over 20 years, and it got exposed. So that made his credibility nothing. So we're searching for pastors, and I was searching for the pastor team, and my secretary, her name was Quantum May, she's on with the Lord for years now. She looked at me one day and said, "Don't you think he's already here?" I said, "Well, no, I don't think so. I would know that if he was." And she said, "No, I think he's here." I said, "Well, no, he's not here because I'm on the committee, and I know we haven't found anybody." And she said, "Well, I think it's you." Well, that blew me away because, like I said, I got saved in actually 84, and this was 91. So I ended up, only by the grace of God, getting voted in. I didn't know what I was doing, but God showed me how to survive that 5.5 years. And it turned out to be a blessing. Don't get me wrong. I had $1 million education and got paid to do it. So today I'm just going to ask you to send me an email, do something, ask me questions. I want to bless you. So I'll see you next week. God bless you. Have a good day.